Hello everyone, I'm meteorologist Charlie Ironmonger, joined by
meteorologist Russell James. Good to see you, Charlie.
Good to see you too, Russ. Of course, usually we get together like this on the CTV desk when we've got a first alert weather day, something serious that we really want people to understand and know about, and what we know people have a lot of questions about.
Oh yeah, a lot of questions indeed. It's all going to come down to, where that rain snow line will set up at, how much moisture we have, also the ground temperatures as well. There's a lot of variables that we're looking at, and we're going to, break all that down.
Yes. Now, for those of you who may just be waking up after a very long and cold weekend, we are, of course, talking about snowfall potential over the next 24 hours. Really not even 24. It's really kind of over what time we got right now. We've got about 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Give it about
5 to 6 hours, mainly.
I was thinking around 12, because I think we'll probably see a lot of that rain, at least the moisture, pull off the coast by the time we get to around 2, 3 a.m. tomorrow morning. And then at that point, then we're looking at an icing situation.
Yeah, and that's going to be an issue, especially for several spots further north and west you are, and even along the coast, even with the cold rain that we're seeing today. Those surfaces are going to be very wet from time to time, so that's going to be leading to some issues later tonight, especially as temperatures drop into the 20s and 30s near the coast. Yeah.
Now let's talk, of course, about the first alert weather day. Of course, rain to snow is the initial step with this this snowy forecast. It's one that, well, we're going to continue to keep an eye on, but right now, again, Russ, it's looking like. Oh, nope, you've got it. You've got it. There we go. Yeah, first alert weather day details. You want to break those down for us?
Absolutely. So, yes, this is a rain to snow type of event where we have essentially the cold air chasing the moisture as of right now. So, mainly timing late afternoon, early evening. Precip will be out as we head towards around midnight, no later than 1, 2 a.m. in the morning near the coast. Wintry mix, we're looking at around 4, 5 o'clock for our northwestern counties to start off.
Those northwestern counties, we'll name them off. We'll get Halifax, Northampton, Hertford, Gates, I'm throwing in there.
Yeah.
Bertie, Edgecombe for certain, Wilson County, possibly portions of northwestern Martin County could certainly get in the mix. And then those of you on the north side of Greenville, north side of the Tar River in Pitt County, you guys also could again see a little bit of that start early on this afternoon.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned too, Charlie, some of those areas, some of those counties that we just mentioned are also under winter weather advisories as of right now. And essentially, a winter weather advisory means that we'll see some possible impacts associated with rain, snow, ice, etc., but not at a level where it'll be compared to if it was like winter weather or winter storm watch or warning type of ordeal. So this is more of a light event, but still you want to take it serious because it only takes a small amount to cause a few issues.
Yeah, it lets you know that you should expect some type of winter weather, but this isn't, of course, going to be the type of debilitating winter weather that will shut down eastern North Carolina and force everybody out to the stores to stock up on bread and milk. That is not this situation.
Not at all. This is not a blockbuster event at all.
Now, before we get too far into the weeds, I do really want to highlight the fact that, of course, we are going to be broadcasting this. And if you want, please, on Facebook, if you've got questions about what to do or questions specifically about the forecast, please throw them over in our Facebook comments section. We are keeping an eye on that. So if you'd like to get your question answered by 2 meteorologists, best way to do it is, again, while we are live, throwing those comments up in the Facebook comments section. But Russ, I'll let you take it from here. Where are we at currently?
We're sitting at 41 degrees right now in Greenville. We've had a persistent northeasterly breeze all throughout the day, at around 15 miles an hour, and that's going to be important for bringing in more of that colder air as we head later on into the day. What's also important is the dew points.
Yes.
The dew point is essentially our baseline. If we can get that number lower into the 30s, then that will increase our likelihood of at least allowing for the rain to transition over to wintry weather later today.
Yeah, it also it helps. The lower your dew point is, the faster your air temperatures are going to drop. But if you get those dew points too low, then on the flip side of that, whenever you've got those air temperatures finally down below 32 degrees, is then all of that light moisture, that light rain turning into light snow can actually evaporate again if those dew points are again too low. If the air is too dry, it can soak up some of that moisture and kind of rob you of a little bit of that snowfall.
Absolutely.
Now we do have one question. Jacob Israel, could the 1 to 2 inch line move more south over Greenville? Possible. It is certainly possible, but again, it's one that I wouldn't really look at the radar coming in to try to make that determination, Jacob. If I were you, I would keep an eye on your thermometer. The faster you see your thermometer drop down below 32 degrees, it increases the likelihood of seeing some of that 1 to 2 inch accumulation in the Greenville area.
Right, and not just Greenville, there's also another spot that we've been watching closely too over the last couple hours. Goldsboro, I've been keeping an eye on the temperature. At around noon, we were sitting at 43 degrees. Now we're sitting at 39. So we're starting to see the temperature beginning to drop. We're also seeing some rain showers and dew points also beginning to drop into the upper 30s. So
also looks like some shoppers that are braving the chill and the rain at this hour.
Yep, absolutely. And it's also cold across several other spots, sitting at 38 degrees now in Rocky Mount, 39 in Williamson. Even along the coast, temperatures are still sitting into the 50s, but we're starting to see signs of temperatures beginning to drop across some of our inland spots. In fact, several spots along I-95 now reporting temperatures a few degrees lower than it was around this time yesterday. That is encouraging. We want all of those spots, even along the coast, to eventually start seeing that decrease in temperature. So this is a gradual process, and you're also starting to see that on our First Alert Live radar. We're starting to see the moisture beginning to fill in.
Yeah, and with that moisture filling in, it will drive air temperatures down. Whenever these raindrops start to fall, they will bring in some of that colder air from the upper levels of the atmosphere. Now, with lighter rain showers, that really isn't a big driver of cold air, but every little bit helps when we're talking about the determination between rain and snow. When we're kind of sitting on that 32-degree line, the more rain we see, the faster it should push those air temperatures back down below 32 degrees and turn some of this green into the blue that would indicate some snowfall coming down.
And something else to consider too, Charlie, is I'm noticing with some of our radar returns there, when you start seeing those darker greens and yellows, heavier downpours, that could actually help drive some of that colder air down towards the surface a little quicker. And we're also starting to notice the radar beginning to change a little bit there up towards Rocky Mount and Raleigh. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time, but it's giving you a sign that we're starting to see that transition towards a wintry mix and even some snow trying to mix in at times.
Exactly. Where those radar beams are slicing through that cloud, they are now starting to pick up on sub 32 degree conditions. So over Raleigh, where it might not actively be full on snow right now, it at least is showing the potential that it will start to snow here over the next hour or less because of those upper level temperatures now dropping sub 32 degrees.
Absolutely, and as we mentioned before, this is a process compared to other areas that are seeing a lot of snow. Of course, Virginia, this is like a big weather system for them, but you definitely see that moisture even extensive back across the triad as well. So the moisture is going to continue to increase as we go throughout the next few hours. Here's a look at our temperatures going into the 40s, down into the 30s in a few spots, going from a rain and a gradual transition over to a light wintry mix and then snow showers. Rain and snow chances generally around 50 to 70%. Meanwhile, along the coast, you're going to remain into the 40s, well above freezing. So looking like an all rainy setup for you guys.
Yeah, the coast, you guys enjoy the proximity to the beach during the summer season, but when it comes to snowfall, more difficult to come by, especially in December, because not only the ocean, but just the sounds themselves can hang on to quite a bit of heat, and that does impact your air temperatures for areas around the coast and around the sounds.
Yep, and water temperatures carry what we call like latent heat, which is it holds a lot of moisture, and the transfer that it would take is a lot longer than it would be if you were in a further inland air mass.
Yes. Yep.
So, and speaking of inland areas, we're still seeing heavy downpour. So, I mean, our model, our in-house computer run is doing a pretty good job by showing full coverage, and so we're going to walk you through. Yeah, the
initialization of this model run is certainly looking and lining up with what we're currently seeing on radar, which makes us believe that this is going to be a little bit more of an accurate forecast versus if the green spots on the map did not line up with what our radar is currently showing. That would give us a little bit less confidence in what this model spits out. But again, initialization is good with this model run.
Yeah, you're right, Charlie, and as we go into the next few hours, we'll see at least the rain begin to continue to make its way towards the coast, and then that transition to a wintry mix sometime between 4 and about 6 p.m. areas there in the pink, that's where that wintry mix could be lining up. So Williamston into all of Martin County, Greene County as well. So Snow Hill, we're talking Greenville, we're talking parts of Farmville as well, seeing a little bit of light wintry weather. And then as we see that color there in the light to darker blue, that is snowfall, mixing in with maybe a little bit of sleet at times. So we're talking Rocky Mount, Tarboro, Canada, Wilson, Sharpsburg, Elm City, over into Northampton County, Halifax County. And as we go into the later part of the evening, so between 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock tonight, eventually we'll have parts of Beaufort County, so Washington over into Williamston, Plymouth, also seeing a little bit of activity, maybe Roper also getting in on a little bit of a light wintry mix. And can't rule out a few flakes likely possible for parts of Onslow County and Jacksonville. Meanwhile, the coast, Swan Quarter, Hatter is still a cold rain event for your area.
Yeah, for those of you who just heard Russell and you're watching from Onslow County, you heard Russell say maybe some flakes. Those flakes will not be sticking in Onslow County. You could certainly see them come down, but again, ground temperatures through Onslow County are just going to be staying too warm for any of that potential snow flakage to actually stick and give you something beautiful to wake up to early on in the morning.
Yeah, this is one of those cases where you got to be at the right spot.
Further
south and east you are, the less likelihood that you'll see the snow stick to the surface. But again, with temperatures dropping into the low 30s, any moisture that will be at the surface could, of course, freeze over at night. So that'll be a bigger concern going into Tuesday morning with some patchy areas of black ice. And then, as you mentioned too before, Charlie, you may have even a secondary area of snow showers attempting to set up there along the I-95 corridor and also along Highway 17. And as mentioned before, these will be more of the snow showers that will not really stick down to the surface.
Well, we're not going to be seeing the greatest of precipitation rates with this moisture. This is going to be at the tail end of the system, so it's more exposed to some of the drier air that resides back towards the high pressure system, which is going to be driving in a lot of that cold air at this point. So the drier the air is, the lighter your precipitation rates are, and when you've got too light of a precipitation rate, it's really not going to do much as far as snow accumulations for you. Yeah, it's going to look nice. You may hear a little bit of ting, 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 ting outside, but it's really not going to play into any sort of major snowfall event, especially for those of you watching south of New Bern. Now, we did get another question from Melanie. Do you think the snow will stick in Beaufort County? If I had to pick a spot in Beaufort County where I think the snow could stick, it would be Old Ford. So if you're watching kind of around the northwestern corner of Beaufort County, that's where I think you have the best opportunity for snow to actually stick. On the flip side of that, Aurora might be one of those areas that has the lowest likelihood of getting snow to stick. It's, again, as Russell mentioned just a few moments ago, it's all about position. The farther northwest you can get, the better your odds, again, are seeing snow early on the ground Tuesday morning. But don't wait too long, because 40 degrees Tuesday afternoon is wiping away the snow.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We'll be above freezing before you know it, and any light accumulation will quickly melt away, and then it could refreeze, even going into the evening hours tonight and even into Tuesday night as well. Now, I'll run to Peter and mention, how about Gardnerville?
Gardnerville, right now, I think a little bit far south. If I were to estimate exactly how much potential snow accumulations Gardnerville, and that's snow and sleet, Gardnerville could possibly see, I would anticipate about 1/2 of an inch. Again, it's one of those that if you really want a full inch of snow, I would say you're going to have to head just north of Greenville. Williamston has an opportunity. Tarboro, Wilson, Rocky Mount all certainly have opportunities to get that above 1 inch snowfall accumulation designation. The rest of eastern North Carolina, it's looking like a dusting at best.
Yep, and we got some more questions, particularly how the roads are going to be. Beth Stocks just mentioned that in Greenville. The roads right now are at least good, but we're essentially on that line. I say if you're more down towards Winterville, eventually it could be an issue, or not as much of an issue, but if you're more towards Bethel, it'll be more of a concern as well. And that goes to mention also is what Charlie was saying with our sleet and snow accumulation forecast. The further north and west you are, the higher likelihood that you'll have the snow reach the surface, with 1 to 2 inches around Rocky Mount, Wilson, so we're talking Edgecombe, Nash, Wilson counties, even part of Martin County there. And then once you get into Halifax County and also Northampton counties, closer towards the North Carolina-Virginia line, you're talking about 2 to 4 inches of snow possibly setting up. And
all right, really quick, we've got Lawrence Manning. How about Windsor? Windsor, you guys are looking around 1 to 2 inches of snowfall expected to stick. Expectations for Pitt County roads in the morning from Julie. That is a big concern. In fact, I think, Julie, you're hitting on the biggest concern right there, is what are roads truly going to look like? And that is one where we have to take in account of what the DOT is doing. They are going to try to treat the roads. The problem is we are going to see rain showers ahead of that freeze, ahead of the snowflakes. So, and then it's just going to be a transition of rain to snow. So it's going to be very difficult to get that brine down at the right time on the right roads in order to prevent any sort of freezing. But right now, I would say the biggest concern is tomorrow morning for that refreezing, especially on bridges and secondary roads. Primary roads, I think, are going to get the attention they need in order to remain relatively ice-free and generally passable. But once you get off those primary roads, that's where the attention may not be given as much, and then you're looking again at some slick conditions out there. Russ, I'm going to let you explain this one. I'm going to run over to our news director and just make sure that we can actually extend this, because we are getting some great questions from our viewers. I will be right back.
Oh yes, absolutely. As Charlie was mentioning beforehand on the bridges and overpasses and road surfaces freezing, the bridges in particular will be most concerning as we go into the overnight, mostly due to the cold air rushing not only just across the surface but also underneath. And when you have that, that allows the heat loss to become greater. And as Charlie was mentioning before, with the rain ongoing right now across the east and with the salt brine at the surface, one of the big concerns is that the rain will wash away a lot of that salt brine, and then when you have the snow compacted on top of that, that will allow for quicker refreezing and greater issues to persist. So again, this is an entire multifaceted process, which is why it's very important that you stay tuned to our forecast here over the next several hours and really going into the rest of tonight and into tomorrow. So temperatures continue to drop. So we've already reached our peak highs across several spots, around 47 degrees and 46 in a few spots. But now we're going to start cooling down tonight to the mid-20s by sunrise on Monday evening into early Tuesday, 41 degrees there on Tuesday. And then Wednesday into Thursday, we begin to rebound into the low to middle 50s. But there are signs that we have a weak system tried to arrive into Friday. Right now we have high temperatures around 50 degrees, overnight lows into the high 20s and low to middle 30s. And then going into the weekend, trending colder as well. So this pattern is locking in where we're seeing below average conditions with temperatures just struggling to remain above or towards our normal high temperatures, overnight lows into the 20s and low 30s across the area.
All right, Russ, I did check in with our news director. We are again cleared to take a few more questions, and I do see we have some more. One from Stacy Oden. I missed the answer with Beaufort County. Are the roads expected to be an issue? Yes. Is kind of the very short answer. But for Stacy and anybody else wondering about the roads, DOT crews are working again to put brine down, but this is one of those situations whenever you got rain showers ahead of the snow that kind of makes that brining of the roads, I don't want to say superfluous, but it makes it certainly less effective. Yep. Because a lot of that rain will slowly, even though they're light showers, it will pick up that salt, it will pick up that brine, and it will take it off into the gutters and then down in your storm drain. So I do think we could certainly see some issues on the roads, especially around Washington, Chocowinity, Old Ford, possibly Terracea, around those areas. Certainly on the north side of Beaufort County, the north side of the river, will have a better opportunity for hazards on the roads. Any bridges, again, likely going to be seeing some icing on top of them. But as far as, trying to pick out which roads are going to be the worst,
that's a tough call right now, at least in the short term. But yeah, you mentioned it right on the money in terms of having the rainfall possibly, washing away some of that salt brine, and then you bring in the snow and wintry mix on top of that, and then everything refreezes. It just creates a mess. And so, especially along the bridges and overpasses where you're having, the cold air not just running across the surface, but also underneath as well.
Yes.
And that enhances the temperatures to quickly drop compared to the surrounding spots. So that's something else worth noting as well. So if you live in an area where there's a lot of bridges, a lot of overpasses, you want to be extra careful, especially heading into tomorrow morning. We'll have temperatures into the mid to upper 20s, and then even into late Tuesday night, early Wednesday, we could have temperatures dropping yet again into the mid 20s.
Yeah. Now, Russ, if there's a way we can get that radar back up, that would be fantastic. As far as let's actually go back to the accumulations map, because I think that's what again a lot of people want to see. I know whenever there's a snow event in my house, it's always okay. What are we going to get in the neighborhood? How much are we looking at? And again, I think this is does a great job of kind of highlighting exactly how much snow and where it is actually going to come down. Do note that most of eastern North Carolina on the eastern side of Highway 17, not shaded in anything. This is not going to be a widespread snow event. It is really going to be a true snow event for those of you watching right along the North Carolina-Virginia line as you head further south. And by south, we're talking about Rocky Mount, Windsor, Oak City, areas that usually we don't consider southern eastern North Carolina. Even they're going to see, again, reduced returns as far as snowfall goes, just because air temperatures are going to be a little bit too warm in eastern North Carolina to really support a full snow event.
That's right, and that's what we took into consideration when it came to the sleet and snow accumulations. Now, if we were talking temperatures were like in the low 30s or upper 20s, like what we saw back in January when we had that really big snow event, then yeah, we will be talking possibly higher snow and sleet accumulations. But with ground temperatures being very warm, with air temperatures steadily cooling down from the 40s into the 30s, that does have some impact with our sleet and snow accumulation forecast.
Yeah, so Russ, let's talk a little bit about timing, because that's another issue I think a lot of people want to know about here. We'll pull us up over here in the corner. As far as timing goes, let's talk, when do we anticipate most areas to drop below freezing? Because that determines truly when that rainfall that is currently coming down actually makes that transition over to snow, and people do start to need to worry about the driving.
So this will be, in terms of the timing of temperatures dropping below freezing, we're talking around 9, 10, 11 p.m. this evening, and then especially going into the overnight hours, so around 12 a.m., 1 a.m., 2 a.m. So for those of you that may have like early morning shifts, particularly around 3, 4 o'clock in the morning.
The night owls, yeah.
Night owls, it could be a rough commute there. So between 2 a.m. and 6 o'clock in the morning, you got to be extra careful. And then heading into sunrise, 6 through around 8 a.m., most locations should be dropping into the high 20s and low 30s. So again, it's going to be that period, we say around midnight to around 9 a.m. or so. That's when we'll see temperatures dropping the most into the 20s and low 30s. And then on top of that, you add the winds, it's going to be feeling even colder.
Yeah. Obviously, the winds will certainly make it feel colder. The winds, though, will not have any sort of impact on, well, they'll have a little bit of an impact on ground temperatures, but not as nearly as much as it will on a human.
Oh, yeah.
But let's talk now about in the morning hours. We are anticipating, again, some delays as far as schools go. I know Pitt County schools already out. Well, they would actually get out at this point anyway. Usually dismissal time around 2:15. But they got out around 11:30 a.m. this morning due to, again, this danger. Tomorrow morning, I think, is really going to be the more of the dangerous time period. So parents, if you're listening around, we'll say Wayne, Wilson, Edgecombe, Halifax, Martin, Pitt, Bertie counties, possibly Beaufort County getting in the mix as well, possibly Lenoir County, possibly Washington County, you guys should anticipate, again, a delay early on tomorrow morning for school. It's one that I will be interested to see if schools actually open for Halifax, Northampton, and Hertford counties.
Absolutely, because I mean, those are going to be the spots that would see the heaviest rain and snow potential as we go throughout the rest of the afternoon. I do want to run through our hourly forecast one more time for any viewers that are just joining us right now, so you have a sort of an idea of what to anticipate at least through the rest of this afternoon and going into the evening. So right now, as Charlie was mentioning earlier, I like the initialization on our hour by hour, showing good coverage of rain across the region. Now, as we go into the late part of the afternoon, evening, so we're talking between 5 and about 7 p.m., so this is about 6 o'clock or so, that rain will quickly transition over into a wintry mix there into pink, so areas from Goldsboro down to Marmac, Magnolia even there into northern parts of Duplin County, stretching across northern Lenore County. So we're talking LaGrange into Kinston, maybe even Snow Hill getting in on this. You'll see a light wintry mix switch over around this time, even extending into Greenville. So Greenville, Simpson, stretching over towards Farmville and Bethel, we're talking a wintry mix, and then even going into Martin County there around Williamston and over into parts of Bertie County near Windsor. We'll see that light wintry mix into snowfall continuing, and this will ongo even into around 9:30, 10 o'clock in the evening, stretching down towards Washington. Plymouth also seeing some light wintry mix, and then can't rule out a quick burst of snow showers, but we'll also have some drier air really beginning to entrain. So some of that snow may not even make it down to the surface. It'll be more so evaporating as the driest air arrives, as high pressure begins to lock in as we go into the overnight hours. And then, of course, by the time we head into Tuesday morning and afternoon, temperatures start off into the 20s, but then we crawl into the high 30s and low 40s. So it's just going to be a very cold day for most of us.
That, and of course, we welcome the sunshine back. We lose out on any sort of moisture, and we kind of, yeah, like you said, we get back to something a little bit more normal for December weather. Now, Russ, if we could go to the 8-day forecast, we, of course, we've talked ad nauseum about this forecast. We've got to look forward, though, coming up to next week. We are going to be looking at another round of not just cold air, but a potential for some mixture of moisture with that cold air. We could be talking about snow again next week.
That's right, and like what we were seeing with this system, everything kind of came together at the last second, and sometimes you have an event pattern that sets up like that. You can have the cold air present, but if you have a little bit of upper level energy present, that's all that you essentially need in order to get an area of low pressure and moisture to also develop near the surface. And so with these temperatures, Charlie, going from the 40s to the low 50s, and then next weekend 40s, even some upper 30s for high temperatures, we're really bringing in maybe the first Arctic air of the season. Yeah,
and it's one seeing those overnight lows in the 20s as we head into next week, and understanding there's going to be another low pressure system that crosses by eastern North Carolina, similar to what this one is going to be doing. But notice your air temperatures. Here's Monday, here we are, and we're looking at a high of 46 degrees today. Of course, we've kind of already experienced that, and through the rest of the day we're going to be cooling down. But coming up next Monday, 38 degrees. So we're going to be colder through the week. It will help drop ground temperatures even further, and it will set up a scenario where it'll be easier to get snowfall out of any sort of moisture that passes by eastern North Carolina.
Absolutely, and all it takes is a nice area of low pressure to develop and the track. If you have something that tracks a little bit closer towards the coast, coastal areas may see rain, but then inland spots seeing snow. If it tracks too far offshore, then it will just be a cold setup. But if it tracks kind of right in the middle of the Goldilocks zone, then that would set up a nice snowy pattern for our area. Yeah,
so again, this is one of those, if you want to see some snowfall and this event really doesn't scratch that itch for you, or maybe you're just watching, say, across New Bern, and you're not going to get anything out of this system other than cold rain and certainly a breeze. Next week, again, we do have another chance. It's getting me hopeful for perhaps a white Christmas this year.
It really is. It definitely does remind me of, I'm getting a little too excited.
I know. Calm it down, Charlie.
But it's happened, patterns like this has happened before in some years past. I remember 2010, December 26th, we had some snow that occurred. Granted, it was the day after Christmas, but it was a pattern where we had colder than average conditions locking in. So this is essentially the primer needed. You need to have successive days of cold air arrive across the area. You need to have areas of low pressure setting up, and you just need that low pressure to meet perfectly with the cold air to have at least a wintry weather event across our areas. So it's looking promising. Can't guarantee it, but we're going to be watching it very closely here over the next week or so. I'm a little hopeful. I'm hoping to see a little bit of wintry weather just in time for Christmas, but I want to go too far ahead of myself there.
Exactly. You don't want to get out ahead of your skis, pun intended, for the snow. But as far as, next week goes, it does look like, again, we certainly have a cold pattern. We will have some moisture at times. As Russell mentioned, it's all a matter of where that moisture actually lines up and when that cold air is at its coldest. If we can get those two to merge, we'll have another round of snow coming up next week. And I think if I think next week our odds of actually seeing widespread snow are a little bit better than what we're seeing with this system. But obviously this is not a widespread snow system, but we do want people to understand early tomorrow morning there's certainly could be icing that is widespread across eastern North Carolina roads, especially secondary roads that don't get treated by DOT crews today. Russ, do you have anything else?
Yeah, and also the bridges and overpasses as well.
Yep.
And will be problematic going into tomorrow. But yeah, I think, Charlie, we covered just about everything.
All right.
Between the rain and cold temperatures and below average conditions over the next week or so. All
right. Well, that does it for us. Again, do want to say thank you to everybody who joined in on the chat, asked your questions. Hopefully we answered those for you. We will be back. I will be back. Russell, you can catch him at 3 o'clock on ENC at 3 with Bailey Bockover. I will be right here on the First Alert desk with more news and weather from the newsroom and the First Alert Weather Center. Until then, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your Monday. And fingers crossed, if you want snow, you get it. If you don't, hopefully you don't.